I wanted to mention something today, and when I thought of this, I said, how could you not have made this clearer in the past? And I was reflecting on the meeting with Hal, and how he was saying in the meeting and in his writing that this practice of being, he talks about being, this practice of being, which means to, be what you are, be the awareness that you are. That this practice of being is so valuable, important because through training and through understanding and feeling it and being familiar with it, you can eventually get to a place where you're able to be with anything. And this is this is part of the meaning of all of the teachings and practices, is the idea that circumstances are not going to determine you. That your connection with the source transcends that situation. And so when we say be with, that through these practices and teachings, you can learn to be with whatever the circumstances you find yourself in without those circumstances having an effect on you. That's a pretty good pitch, right? But in order for that to be the case, right, you have to understand that what is meant by be with is not you like a person be with. No, it's you like awareness be with. It's you like the awareness be with the body breathing, right? That's why I emphasize that as far as your practice is concerned, right? You're not with the body breathing, it's the awareness is with the body breathing. And all you have to do is make that distinction to yourself when you're practicing, so that you for a moment, you might look and see what the answer to the question is, am I aware? Because if you're asked that question, you look and you see the awareness and you say yes, right? So maybe when you go to practice meditation, it would be useful to just check in that way and say, okay, am I clear about who I am? Am I clear about the awareness being that which is aware of the body breathing? Now, one of the reasons I'm bringing this up is because we're all dealing with more shit now. The pandemic is just about over, but now we have a war, right? It seems like it's always something, right? But it's an opportunity, when you look at this from a spiritual perspective, all these things, as the Chinese character for crisis says, because that same character means opportunity, a spiritual person sees all challenges to their well-being as an opportunity. So a war happens, right? So now you can use this as an opportunity to practice. Now you have something good to practice, not just, and the same thing is true for everything else, right? When my dog died, I used it to practice, right? When somebody dies around you, you use it to practice. That doesn't mean you don't be human and feel grief and all the rest of it, no. But you use it to practice. Well, what does that mean? Well, you use it to practice being with the circumstances in such a way that the circumstances don't have any power with you, right? Well, what does that mean? It means that when you're being with the circumstances, you're being with the circumstances and you're being with the personality. You're being with the circumstances and the personality. In other words, if I'm being with the situation and I'm doing it using these teachings and practices, there's the situation, right? Say the war, right? There's the war, and watching it on the news and blah, 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 and all that stuff, right? And then there's me, the person watching the war, right? And me, the person watching the war, is going to have emotions about it, going to have thoughts about it, going to have physical sensations about it, right? That's what's going to happen, right? But me, the awareness, is aware of the person experiencing the emotions, the thoughts, and the sensations, and being aware of the circumstances. So it's like instead of seeing everything from here, when I say here, I mean from the person out, right? No, we're practicing seeing things in a sense. It's not exactly true, but as Rupert said, it's good enough for teaching practices. But so what we're practicing is going back here now, behind the person. That's what is meant by being with the situation. Part of the situation is you. Part of your situation in your life is you, but you haven't been living your life as if you're part of the situation. You've been living your life as if there's you, the person, and then what's in front of that is the situation, right? But what you've been learning and practicing here is no, The personality is part of the situation. Your conditioning is part of the situation. The thinking that occurs is part of the situation. The feelings that occur are part of the situation. What do I mean by that? Well, your feelings and your thoughts and your physical sensations are happening with the same, coming from the same reality as the situation, like the war, in the sense that it's just happening. In the sense that it's just happening. Remember, and this is something that you need to be reminded of, because when you fall back into the confused state of thinking you're a person, you don't see this, okay? Remember that you have nothing to say about the thoughts that occur in your mind. You have to really keep going over this territory, because it's so easy to fall back into thinking you're the thinker. You have nothing to say about the thoughts that arise in your mind. You have nothing to say about the emotions that arise, and you have nothing to say about the physical sensations that occur. Therefore, that situation is the same situation as the war. You have nothing to say about that either, do you? No. But what we're saying now, you see, if you hear that to be, oh, what I mean when I say be with the situation is I mean you, the person, be with the situation. If you've tried to do that, you may have noticed it didn't work well, right? Because then you're an upset person trying to be with the situation, right? Because those emotions are going to be disturbing, right? Those thoughts are going to be challenging. Those physical situations are going to produce fear. Right? So now you're just being upset, and then you get confused. Well, I don't know what, I must be doing something wrong. I must be doing something wrong. You familiar with this? I must be doing something wrong because I'm still upset. I understand these teachings, and they tell me, that I need to practice being able to be with the circumstances in such a way that the circumstances are not affecting me. But it ain't working. I'm upset, and I just keep being upset. I keep being upset. So the reason for that is because either you misunderstand what you're doing, or you're not practicing the practice the way it's meant to be done. That's the reason I said in that part of the meditation, please be clear that you're being the awareness now. And if you're going to take this and bring it into your everyday life, right? If you're going to take the formal practice and make it informal, which you should be doing if you want to get the full benefit and arrive where you're headed, right? Then what you have to do is you have to notice that whatever thoughts are arising, whatever feelings are arising, whatever physical sensations are arising, that's all arising in awareness, or that's all arising from the personality, but the awareness is aware of that. The awareness is aware of that. So when you're practicing this the way it's meant to be practiced, you're aware of being the person, but you're not the person. Do you understand? You're behind it now, and you're seeing the person reacting, but you're not the person reacting. You're the awareness of the person reacting, and the awareness is not affected. The awareness never changes. The awareness stays the same. The awareness is the eye of the storm, right? The awareness is still. The awareness is quiet. The awareness doesn't have any emotions. It doesn't talk. It's just here. It just is. The reason that it's so difficult to identify with that, right, is because there's nothing to identify with. Is there? If we talk about awareness, what are we saying about awareness? It has no form, it doesn't exist in time, it's not going anywhere, it's not physical, right? Yeah, so obviously you can't identify that because it's nothing. How are you going to identify nothing, right? And you shouldn't try and identify that like it's something other than you. But if you relate to it that it's you, right, then you can experience it. You don't have to see it because you're it. You are it. You don't have to see it. It's like St. Francis said, what you're looking for is what's looking, okay? So you'll never see yourself. You'll never see what you are because you are looking from there at whatever you look at, okay? And that which you are, that you're looking from, is formless, timeless, right? It has no emotions. It doesn't show up. It's the space in which everything shows up in. What you are doesn't show up. That's why you can't see it. That's why you can. And even being it is complicated, right? Why? Because you've always been being it and you never noticed it. So nothing new is going to happen, right? Nothing new is going to happen. A lot of people think, well, if I meditate, then my awareness will show up. You know, or if I meditate, I'll become the awareness, right? This is the personality trying to keep you confused. That's all.
Is awareness wisdom?
Awareness, yeah, awareness is wisdom. Yeah, awareness is wisdom. And the wisdom that it is not like information or knowledge, because the wisdom that it is direct experience of the truth. It's not an interpretation. You understand? That's what wisdom is. Wisdom is experiencing the truth. That's what wisdom is, right? For example, part of the wisdom teachings, the core wisdom teachings, as Hal calls it, right, is, and it's a very important and critical part of the wisdom teachings, it's a discovery that you're not what you think you are. Because what you think you are is headed toward the grave, okay? Bodies die. If you think you're a body, then you get to die, right? Or you get to think you're going to die and be afraid of dying, and then it never happens. So it's all that's been a waste of time and energy. It's just like anything else. One of the typical things of a human being is they produce tremendous amounts of energy and fear, right, about what's going to happen in the future. Don't we? Produce a tremendous amount of energy and fear and concern and even depression and anxiety and all that jazz about what's going to happen in the future. And if you're paying attention, when whatever happens in the future does happen, right, it will have been exactly the same without your having wasted all that time and energy. That's called stupidity, right? So when are you going to wake up? When are you going to learn from that? Do you understand? When are you going to realize that all of what you put yourself through before something happens doesn't make any difference? That's a fact, Jack. It doesn't make any difference. You do have free will. So you see now you're making me go there. You're one of the biggest complainers about this, and now you're making me go there.
We said we had no free will. I always said we had free will.
I always said, now watch how your pea shooter brain manipulates this situation, right? I have always said, as Ramesh has always said, when people talk about this, if you listen to him talk, did he not say you do have free will? But the reality of it is, and all you got to do is get this for that to clear up, right? That there's no free will, right? Thy will be done, there's no free will, right? And part of thy will be done that there's no free will about is that there's free will.
I'm confused.
I know. So look, so thy will be done, and the will that is being done is to have you have a mechanism. This is exactly how Ramesh talks about it. To have you have a mechanism that keeps you from remembering the truth about free will. So that it can have you be operational in this world of time and space. That's why you think you have free will. You have to think you have free will in order to move around in the world, right? Can you continue to move around and live your life without free will? Can you? It's impossible. It's impossible. So when the wisdom that God has, wisdom said, okay, I'll give him free will at that level. But it's an illusion. I'm behind the scenes at all times, making all the decisions, doing everything, right? And the other thing about this that can help you, get off the position that you find yourself in. One way to get off it is to understand that, part of there being no free will is that you think you have free will. You have no free will about thinking you have free will, right? The thing about it that's useful, that's important to understand, is behind it all, you've never done anything. There's never been a doer. And not only do you not have free will now, but you never did. Everything you ever accomplished was God. Everything that you did wrong was God. You've never been on the hook. Well, you see, the thing with King Lear is, and this is the distinction that makes the difference, right? That he abandons himself in the role. That's what a good actor does, right? They abandon themselves in the role, right? But they never 100% let go of the truth. That would make them psychotic. Right? That's what Rupert says happened temporarily for this guy, to make a point, right? But the actor never forgets 100% who they are. They have to have some percentage of it available to go back to, right? Otherwise, they're lost. So no, you can know who you are. That's the whole thing. You can know who you really are, right? And understand it's not in conflict with who you're being in the world. It's not in conflict with who you're being in the world. But even knowing who you are, if you pursue this and develop the understanding, even knowing who you are in terms of expressing what that is, the most honest and clear and authentic expression of that is that you don't know who you are. You have the appearance of free will is what I'm saying. And that's not a problem that you have the appearance of free will. Because the problem is when you take on the appearance of free will to be a matter of fact, that it's true that you have free will, and then along with that comes the responsibility for what you do, and that's what you suffer from, right? Along with the free will, see, that's the whole point of the conversation. Along with the free will comes the idea that you're responsible for everything you ever did wrong. You get to carry that with you. If you're a religious person, you could say you're a sinner. That's what sin is, right? Doing things wrong, right? Yeah. So that's what goes along with it. But and so that's what's available, whether we're talking about free will or death, since there's no real death, there's no real suffering, and there's no free will, right? If you pursue this and you continue to deepen your understanding and you continue to practice, it'll eventually start to reveal itself. And this is one of the things that, who was I listening to that was talking? Richard Orr was talking about this, about faith. I've never been a big faith person. You know, I guess it was because of my Catholic, right, that turned me off with faith. But I was listening to him talk about faith, and he made a very valuable point. He said, you and I as human beings are never going to know everything there is to know. And if you need to know everything there is to know for you to be satisfied about the truth, right, instead of getting confused and all that other jazz, right, it's never going to happen because you can't know everything there is to know. And the way Richard Rohr talked about this, I thought was very realistic and useful. He said, since that's the case, right, find out as much as you can know, right, and then have faith in the difference. Because that's the only possibility. That's the only possibility. Find out as much as you can. Now, as much as you can know goes way beyond what a lot of religious people do to find out what they can know. That's why meditation and these teachings and practices are so valuable, because you can know a lot. You can know who you are. Experientially, you can know it, not conceptually. And when I said before that the bottom line is that the only real answer to the question of who are you is I don't know, what I meant by that is you can know in terms of experiencing it because you are experiencing it. Yeah. You can know in terms of experiencing it, right? But the experience of it can't be conceptualized with any degree of accuracy at all, right? Because once you turn something into language, right, it dumbs it so down. It makes it something that it's not, it makes it something different than it is. That's one of the problems with this process of learning and practicing, is that all we have to use is concepts, right? All we have to use is language, right? And although that's limiting, and although that creates an issue in terms of confusing the word for the reality, confusing the language and the concepts for the experience, right? Although that's the case, right? It can still work. It can still work by understanding the words can only point. That's why when they talk to teachers, they say they're using pointers. They're not saying what I'm saying is true. They're saying, no, what I'm saying is a concept that points to something that's true, and what it points to is an experience, and that's an experience that's available to you at all times, right? That's what we're practicing meditation for you to familiarize yourself with what it's like to be you. When you move your attention from the thinking activity to the awareness of the body breathing, you're being yourself. But only if there's no thinking, and that's why I said be very careful. Be very careful. It may be only a moment that there's no thinking, but that's gold. Because in every moment of the truth is the whole truth. It's like a hologram. Do you understand you know what a hologram is? And every moment of the truth is the whole truth. So if you experience the truth for one moment, you've experienced the truth. The whole truth in one moment, right? Because in every moment of the truth, the whole truth exists, right? So don't, so what I'm saying here is don't worry about confusion. It's a necessary part of this process. You're all right. You were confused before we had this conversation. So don't blame me. You were confused to begin with, weren't you?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
had a hard day.
Yeah.
That's what you set out to do.
So to think that confusion is a problem is confusing to you.
We didn't know what we didn't know.
That's right.
That's true.
So now, they say that Adam bit the fruit of knowledge, and that was the fall of mankind and womankind and all that. So this is reversed. We're throwing up.
So it's just the person that's confused. The awareness we are is not.
Yeah, the awareness was never confused. And you are that. You see, this is the whole joke, right? The awareness was never confused, and that's what you are. So what was confused? What was confused is this little, limited version of the reality of what you actually are that got cut off from the source, right? And it's trying to function in a world where the way it understands the truth, what it calls the truth, is a misunderstanding. And that's why there's so much suffering, and that's why the way people function in the world doesn't work for the most part.
Is there anywhere where awareness is not manifest in material?
Yes. If you go and you look at some of the writings that Ramesh talks about, he's one of the few teachers that really elaborately describes all this, right? And he says that there's two parts to reality, to what's so, to awareness, to God, if you wish, right? There is the energy potential and the manifest energy. Energy potential and the manifest energy. Together, they're the whole, right? So, and the manifest potential is the awareness. It has not yet shown up. It has not yet shown up in the world of time and space, okay? And it doesn't show up in the world of time and space. What does show up in the world of time and space is still awareness. It's in form now, right? If you do the chanting up there and you do the Heart Sutra, which they will do, but the Heart Sutra, one of the key lines in the Heart Sutra is emptiness is form and form is emptiness. Emptiness is form and form is emptiness. That's saying that the unmanifest potential and the manifest potential are the same thing. That's what that says. Emptiness is form, right? Awareness takes form, and form is emptiness. Even when it's in the form that it's in, it's still consciousness awareness. All there is consciousness, right? So form is emptiness, right? All there is consciousness. Emptiness is form. All there is consciousness. Right? So you have energy potential unmanifest, and you have manifest energy. But none of that, you don't need to know that geography. You don't need to know that to be what you are. No. The experience of being what you are is self-fulfilling. It is self-sufficient. Oh, that was a term that I heard recently that caught my attention. That most of humanity cherishes the idea of being self-sufficient, don't they? That's the hallmark of the ego, isn't it? Self-sufficiency, right? That's what you teach your teenagers to take on, is become self-sufficient. I wish mine would. Get the hell out of the house, for Christ's sake, and become self-sufficient. But the reality of it is that none of us are self-sufficient. That's the biggest part of the lie. You're not self-sufficient. And this is one of the ways to talk about this, is we think our bodies end here and the world starts there, right? But how long could your body live without being part of that world? When you breathe, when you eat, right? Your body and the world are interacting, right? And what the teachings tell us is that the idea that you're separate from the world is an illusion. That's duality. Non-duality says you and the world are the same thing, right? That the air that you breathe when you exhale and the air that you inhale when you breathe, right? That's you breathing as the world and as a person. That's the non-dual understanding. That's you breathing as the world and as a person. So, don't lose faith. Keep practicing. Keep practicing. Keep studying. Keep looking to deepen your understanding of these things. Ramesh really put a high, Nisargadatta said understanding is the whole ball game. He said the whole ball game is understanding. He said his guru only gave him one instruction and then died. His guru said, just keep your eye on the I am, which the I am is the awareness. He said, just keep your eye on the I am. Just keep looking at the awareness. Keep looking at the awareness. And Nisargadatta said he took that to heart, he trusted his guru, and he did that for 2 years, and then he woke up. That's not a bad deal, 2 years to wake up, right? And experience yourself to be part of the non-dual world, okay? So and one of the things he said, and Jesus Christ said, and Buddha said, is I am not different than you are. We are the same. Therefore, what I tell you is the experience that I'm having is available to you at all times. It has to be so. Has to be so. So that's what you want to challenge yourself with, right? That you and Jesus Christ are the same, right? And wherever you don't think that that's the case, focus in on that to find out the truth. You and the Buddha are the same. In fact, in Buddhism, they talk about the fact that everybody's a Buddha, right? Everybody's a Buddha. In Christianity, they talk about Christ consciousness, right? Everybody's Christ. Everybody's Christ, right? So if you listen to Richard Rohr and that's one of the reasons why I invite you when I share with you a lot of teachers, because I want you to hear it different ways. I want you to know everywhere that you hear it differently is not it. None of that is it. But if you hear it different ways from enough places, you might look and see for yourself what all of them are pointing to. You see? That's what you have to do, yeah. You see, that's the thing. Your habits are so ingrained in your brain, you can't talk long without falling into it. I say that all the time here, don't I? When people talk, I say, just listen to what you're saying. You're obviously speaking from the viewpoint of the person, that's all. Yeah. So you have to be patient. This takes time. You've been being trained to be stupid. And your brain's stupid. Your brain is stupid. It doesn't know anything. It doesn't have consciousness. You have consciousness, and yet this is important. You have consciousness and awareness. You are actually here awake, seeing and experiencing reality, right? But you take a back seat to your brain and you let a machine run your life. That's the truth. You take a back seat to your brain and you let the machine run your life, and then you complain after you did it. You complain. You could blame it on society if you want. I don't care, as long as you see the truth, right? Don't take a back seat to your life. Be that consciousness. Use your awareness to see what's actually happening so that you don't keep reacting to it and behaving in relationship to it in an unskillful way. That's not that hard, is it?
Is that a joke?
All right, get out of here. Get out of here.